Hi, everybody. Welcome to East to West Weight Loss Surgery, the podcast. I'm April Williams, and I'm the West.
And I'm Jason Smith, and I'm the East.
And we are here to support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. Today, we're diving into a topic that a lot of our followers have requested, and that is everything pre-op. So the title of today's episode is Weight Loss Surgery Pre-op, just the basics. We know that there's a ton that actually goes into preparing ourselves and our lives for the actual surgery. And we know that there's a lot of like surgeon required elements. There's a lot of medical required elements. So we're just going to kind of touch on all of the basics for what we have gone through prior to surgery, and just know that these are our experiences, but really your surgeon and your insurance company is going to require some very specific things that you need to do. You absolutely need to follow those to the letter, do them exactly as they're prescribed, and just know that that's the foundation. So the other things that we're going to talk about today was we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of the emotional side of things. We're going to dive into how we can prepare our friends and family for the changes. We're going to talk about how we can prep our home for the changes. So it should be a pretty good episode. Jason, you and I, obviously we've been through the same procedure. We've both had a vertical sleeve gastrectomy or VSG, but we kind of prepped in different ways. So it's going to be exciting to compare and contrast our experiences.
Yeah, definitely. There's differences, there's similarities, but that's kind of going to be the case with everybody. Just because you may know 5 people that had it done, but I guarantee you all 5 of those people didn't do the same things.
No, which is
for the most
crazy.
part.
It is. It's crazy because, like everybody's been through the same procedure. The procedure was exactly the same, but how you actually got to the operating room, it varies. Like, it's just crazy. All the people that we talk to, it really varies person to person. So
Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
Going to be exciting. Okay. So we'll just dive right in. The really cool thing that we love about our community and how we record these is that you guys can actually watch these podcasts as well. So we record them in Zoom. So the audio obviously gets uploaded to our podcast feed, and you can listen on your favorite podcast app, or you can go to our YouTube channel, and all you need to do is search East, the number 2, West _WLS. So East to West _ weight loss surgery. And then the video podcast will pop up. So you can see us, which is sometimes fun because we're 2 adorable people, and we tend to show a lot of emotion on our faces. So sometimes watching us is a good thing too.
We definitely do. And make sure that if you do visit, to like and subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yep. That's the whole goal. Our whole goal, the whole reason Jason and I started this was that we really saw a lack of information about life before and after bariatric surgery when it comes to like the emotional work and the changes, just all of the big things that actually help us be successful after weight loss surgery. There was just not a lot of information there out there about that. So that was really why we started East to West. We want to serve this community. We want to grow with this community. And that happens by you participating and watching and listening and liking and recommending and all that kind of good stuff. So all of the support that you would like to give us, we would love to have it.
Definitely, please.
All right, so let's jump right in. So the first pre-op basic category that we're going to talk about is medical and insurance requirements. So pretty much no matter who your insurance is or who your surgeon is here in the United States, they're going to kind of cover 4 big things. They're going to ask that you go through a physical evaluation, mental evaluation, nutritional appointments or counseling, and then surgical appointments. So I know with my physical evaluations, I had to go through like scans, tests, blood work, all that kind of stuff. I had to actually physically meet with my surgeon 2 times before to just talk about the procedure, to answer my questions. Did you have any other physical things that you had to do, Jason?
With mine, I had to meet with my primary care physician 6 times to discuss in depth weight loss and diet. And we had to, actually, I had more than 6, but I had to go back and do 4 more because they didn't like the amount of information my doctor on about dietary things that we spoke about, like calorie counts, and we didn't discuss actual exercise. She would just put diet and exercise on a couple of those, and that wasn't enough. So if you do have pre-op, where you have to go meet with a primary care doctor, make sure that they're discussing calorie counts and the amount of exercise and what type of exercise, so that you don't have to go back and do, more work on top of work that's already done, like I did. And I just had to meet with the bariatric surgeon once for the pre-op or the initial consultation, to make sure that I even was a candidate for the surgery, and what type of surgery I was a candidate for versus what type of surgery I thought that I would want or best would fit me. We kind of went through that, and me being, 43 at the time and being such a high weight of 468 pounds, my surgeon told me straight, he's like, the sleeve is the only thing I will do for you because you are too high risk with your age and your weight. So this is the only safe bet that we could do that I know is going to work. And if we have to adjust it later and go to the bypass after the fact, we can always do that. But starting with the sleeve is the best way for you based on your age and your weight. So.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And that's funny. I didn't have to do any of that. I was qualified based on my BMI, and I had sleep apnea. So I didn't even need to see a primary care physician. I called the Franciscan Center for Weight Loss, and they're like, oh, no, you fit the criteria. Okay, perfect.
which I did once they figured out my BMI and that I had sleep apnea and all that. But, it's just those things that the insurance company wanted me to do, and then had to do the normal, meet with the psychologist and speak with her and do my, psych eval. Yeah. Then I had to go do the nutritionist. I only had to do one nutritionist appointment, and I had to sign up for an online support group, which I did. If you could go to one in person, they recommended that. Yeah. But since the woman that was the nutritionist for my doctor's office, she just went ahead and enrolled me in the online course, because I told her, with my work schedule and everything else, it was just better for me to do it that way. So I ticked off 3 boxes, and actually I remember with the steps being like 8 steps, I ticked off 6 steps in one day just in being in the office. And I was just like, well, this is moving a lot faster than I thought it was going to. So it really went into hyperdrive real quick. And then I got hit with those 4 other appointments that had to be 4 consecutive months. So I was like, great, we're going to wait a little while. That's awesome.
I was equally frustrated. I had to do 5 nutritional appointments, and then an in-person kind of like pre-op. So they went over nutrition again, and, like how to care for your wounds, and, how to do your medications if you needed them. And I too was a little bit annoyed. I was like, okay, I'm like ready now. And I felt like these are just hoops that I have to jump through, and all it's doing is giving me more time to like talk myself out of it. It was very frustrating. But I think looking back on it now, I did learn some really valuable information in those nutrition appointments and meeting with my surgeons and in the face-to-face. But I think it was also important too, because if you're talking yourself out of having the surgery just going through nutrition appointments, then you're not going to be successful after the surgery anyways. So it's almost like, it's almost like college, right? Like you jump through all these hoops to get this piece of paper that says, I can do these basic skills. It's kind of the same with the medical appointments. It's like, no, they're going to run you through the gauntlet, because if you can make it through just these most basic requirements, then you're going to have a better chance of finding success after surgery. So while I think it can feel like, that you're jumping through hoops, there is a rationale behind those hoops, and it would behoove you to jump through them so that you can have the surgery and and get the tool that you need to live life at your healthiest weight. But yeah, challenging.
Well, it's funny that you say that too, because they didn't really talk to me about my wounds and how to take care of any of that. Like I bypassed that part of it, or I was just still whacked out from the meds after the surgery, and they told me about it and I didn't know. But the only thing I remember them saying is don't scrub them until all of the glue comes off of the wounds. That's the only thing I remember about that part. But side note, my wounds are healing up fantastically, and my scars will be very minimal, and that's amazing. So.
Yep, totally. I was pretty amazed too. And I was so thankful for, and everybody has access to this. I had so many questions right after surgery, and I consulted my binder, right? I consulted the book and I couldn't find the answer in there. And every single time I called, they responded right away to my questions. They were very cordial. I mean, that's something that they're paid to do, is literally answer your questions. So if you have questions before surgery, if you have questions after surgery, they are literally there to help you. So consult the material that you have been given, read it thoroughly. And if you can't find the answer in there, then you definitely need to call and just get those answers, because they want you to be successful. They don't want you to, to throw stuff off. And
well, and the same goes for the nutritionist as well. The nutritionist I found are the same exact way. If you have any questions that the binder doesn't cover, you call the office, and even if it's not the actual nutritionist, some of the other ladies in the office, in my office, were able to answer simple questions for me as well.
Yes. Yep. Super big help. Super help. And the number one thing that I kind of recommend that you start right away. So as soon as you commit to surgery and you've had that first appointment, go buy yourself or find in your house a notebook. And that is going to become your weight loss surgery notebook. That's where all of the questions that you have, you can write down. That's where you can take all of your notes when you go to all of these meetings. This is where you can write down your thoughts, your measurements, things that you're noticing after surgery. It was really handy for me just to have one book, and it's right here, actually. It's right in front of me, right? This is my weight loss surgery notebook. All of everything that has to do with the surgery, but pre and post, is in this notebook. And it's so nice because I know that there's one place that I can go for everything related to this journey that I'm on. So I highly recommend that you start yourself a weight loss surgery notebook. And this is where everything goes. That way you don't have stuff scattered in different notebooks or binders or piece of paper, or you're trying to remember stuff in your head. Nope. Write it down. Or if you're a digital person, get a note going in your phone or on your tablet, and that is where all of your information goes.
Definitely. You can also you can use different apps. There's lots of apps out there that will help you keep track of that stuff. I know Bariatric has been great for me as far as that goes. You can also log your food in there as well. Inches, it keeps track of your BMI. It does all those things. So, I mean, there's lots of apps out there. Find one that works for you. The notebook is an amazing thing because, trust me, April mentioned measurements, and that's the one thing that I did not do. I did photos with a shirt on, without a shirt on. And I did not do measurements. The only measurement I knew was my neck size because of buying dress shirts. And I really wish I would have done other measurements, because there's going to be days post-op that the scale is not going to be your friend. Like, you're going to put all the work in. You're going to do everything right. You're going to do all your water intake, your vitamins, everything you need to make it through the day like you're supposed to, and the scale's not going to move, or it's going to go up a pound or two, or sometimes 3. Water weight, whatever it may be, the scale's not going to be your friend. But those measurements you look at, you can do those, and those don't lie. Those will let you know every single time how far you've come. And just because the needle on the scale doesn't move does not mean the tape's not going to, because I promise you, you will lose more inches than you lose pounds a lot of the time.
Yep. And that's a whole nother area that we really want to dive into: pictures and measurements, and taking measurements of things that you would have never thought about, like my neck circumference. I think that's a measurement even in the Bariatric app. And I was just amazed at how much my neck has shrunk, and just all kinds of areas, your forearms, your upper arms, your upper thigh, your lower thigh, your calf, even I know this sounds crazy, but like my foot circumference. I've gone down in shoe sizes.
Oh yeah.
I just can't believe where it's all coming from. So taking measurements, and then I think also too, after surgery, really, take your measurements every week, or take them every other week, or just even when like Jason, like you said, you step on the scale and, oh my God, I've gained weight. That's gonna, that threw me for a total loop. Like, how could I possibly be gaining weight? But then when I took measurements, it's like, oh, well, my body, my weight is doing some weird things, but I am shrinking. And that was the goal here. So yeah, taking measurements and recording them consistently, super important. The other thing
Definitely.
that I think is super valuable too is taking a ton of pictures right now before surgery from every angle that you could
Every,
possibly,
every angle.
right? And you are going to hate those pictures. You're going to look at those pictures and you're going to go, I'm deleting them. Don't
Don't.
save them, because a month after surgery, 2 months, your entire life now moving forward, you are going to want those pictures so you can look back at yourself and go, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. On those dark days, to be able to say like, oh my God, I can't believe I look like that. And then to be able to recreate that angle or recreate that photo and see the difference is just unbelievably powerful.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's going to be a huge thing moving forward for everybody, because and the you're going to want to get discouraged. You're going to want to be down on yourself if the needle doesn't move. If you've done it, especially if you've done everything right. Like it's funny that we're talking about this today, because yesterday I got almost 6,200 steps in. I had all my water, I had all my protein, I had all my shakes, I had everything I was supposed to have yesterday, and I was really gunning for like a 2 or 3 pound loss, and I lost 4 ounces, and I was ready to scream this morning. I was super pissed, but I started digging in the closet, because yesterday, while we were on our way out to go meet some people, and I couldn't find something to wear that wasn't old clothes that are too big now. And so I start digging in the back of the closet, which are clothes that I haven't worn since we moved to Florida 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm finding that a lot, like I've got shorts on right now that were purchased at Old Navy.
Oh, that's
That's off
good for you.
that's off the rack, baby. And that hadn't happened. That has not happened for this guy in many, many moons. So
Oh,
the fact that I'm wearing something that did not come from a big and tall store is simply amazing to me. And if I wasn't sitting around if I was actually out in public, I would need a belt. Like I've got room. So that, trust me, just because the scale is not your friend does not mean those measurements will not come through in a clutch.
nope. And and that's the other thing that I really wanted to encourage people to do is keep keep a set of the clothes that you wore at your highest weight, or the clothes that you're wearing
Yes,
now, right?
definitely.
Even if it's like a pair of pants, a shirt. Ladies, I know this might seem a little bit weird, but a bra and a pair of your underwear.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't believe how small my chest has gotten. And just to see side by side, my old bra and my new bra is just, you just can't believe it. And to be able to really, compare just your clothes, it's a really powerful touchstone that you can keep on those days that you're like, this is just bullshit and this isn't working and I'm pissed. And, and when you want to just throw it all away and go back, go back to a safe place, put on your fat jeans, put on your 4X t-shirt, and just be amazed at the work that you've done. I mean,
Definitely.
yeah, super, super important. So I've even gone so far as I have a photo album on my phone now, and I think it's called Before. And every time I come across a picture, so I mean, I can go like deep. I've got almost 50,000 digital images now, so I can go deep into my my photos. And every time I find a picture of myself back in the day, I add it to that album, so that if I need a boost, or if I want to make a before and after picture, I've got a whole bunch of them there. And I took very few pictures of myself right before surgery. I wish I had done more, but all those pictures I moved there, and thank God I didn't delete them, because when I look at them now, it almost makes me want to cry, because I just, I didn't see what I didn't see what I really look like. And looking at those pictures is very difficult. I just can't believe that is really truly what I look like. But seeing what I look like now, and having the confidence and the happiness that I do have now with my decision, it's okay. Those pictures are not bad. They're factual. That's what I look like. My life was still wonderful. I had friends who loved me. I was close with my family. I'd done so many wonderful things in my life at that size that shouldn't, it isn't a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. But I'm super thankful that those pictures are there, because yeah.
Right. Well, and like you're talking about the pictures, you can draw from the pictures just like you can draw from personal experiences. There's going to be an experience that you've had, that we've all had at our larger size, that we're going to remember, that we'll draw on. Whether it was you couldn't fit on a roller coaster and you were super embarrassed, or for myself, I've talked about it in the past, was going on a college visit with my son and not being able to make the whole trip because I couldn't walk that far. There's things that are going to stick out. You can draw from those experiences just like you can the pictures or the clothes or the whatever else it may be. You're going to need all of it, because there's going to be days where pictures just may not do it, because you'll have something post-op called fat brain, where no matter what you see in the mirror, you see your old self. So whether or not you take that picture and you look at how you used to look, and you can see how you look now, which is completely different, you may have to put those old clothes on. You may have to get the measuring tape. Like, there's things you're going to have to do to propel yourself forward. The biggest part of it is that you propel yourself forward. Like, you can't it's okay to feel bad or feel down or feel whatever it is for the moment. You just can't let it encompass how far you've come, because this is a journey. It is a marathon, not a sprint. You will not be over this in a day. It will not be, you won't be over it in a week. You're not going to have surgery and wake up the next day minus 100 pounds. It's just not going to happen that way. I know my journey, as much as I've lost the weight that I've lost in my 2.5 months post-op, it's been different for April. It's been different for other people. There's other people that went and had surgery the same day I did who haven't come as far as me, and there could be people that have gone farther than I have in this time frame. This is a soul journey. You can be happy for those other people, or you can feel empathy for those other people if they haven't had as good of a time as you have. But don't get wrapped up in those other people's journeys and comparing them to your own. Because this, as much as we're in this all together as a group, your journey is your own. You're not gonna. Everybody's results may vary. That statement has never been more true than post-op weight loss surgery.
Absolutely. Isn't the saying, comparison is the thief of joy?
Exactly, and 100% it is every time.
Yeah, and it's a catch-22 with this community, right? Because the community is nothing but supportive, and it's so awesome to be able to see and read other people's experiences. But if you go a step further and you start saying, well, my surgery was, that same month, but I've only lost 50 pounds and she's lost 75, right? Then all of a sudden you start going into this negative place, and you start second guessing yourself, and you start, worrying and no, right? If you have a concern about your progress, call your doctor, call your surgeon. Do not look at these other people and start doing that comparison game, right? If it starts a question for you and you are questioning your progress, pick up your phone, call your surgeon. But do not think that you are not making progress, because you go to those old clothes, you go to your measurements, you go to just the weight loss, and you start thinking about all the years that you spent trying to accomplish what you have done post weight loss surgery. You got to get your mind right, because you've done amazing things. Just making the decision to have the surgery, you have done an amazing thing. So you need to focus on gratitude for yourself. You need to have joy for the people in our community who are doing it. You can be a part of that. And then, joy for yourself. And that can be hard to do, because we haven't felt that a lot in our lives up to this point.
That's very true. And another thing that I've seen a lot of people who have been posting a lot of Transformation Tuesday and kind of Throwback Thursday pictures and things like that. You see a lot of the taglines in our community start with, well, I went back and forth on whether or not I should post this, and I really was self-conscious about putting this image out there. Look, we've all been there. We know what we look like with or without a shirt on. Like, we know.
We all have those images.
we all have them, and do not, please, my favorite thing is have no shame in your game. Just post the pictures, because it's a tremendous difference from where you were to where you are now. 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, it doesn't matter. It's all progress, and it all should be applauded. So the changes are going to be there. Like I said, just because the pound count may not be the same, the inch count's going to win out. So as long as you're just, put it out there, let everybody see, because not only is it liberating for yourself, it also lets other people, because you never know who you're inspiring. You can put a post out there, and like I alluded to in some of the the previous shows, I was on the fence about having surgery until I found someone that was my same body makeup and around my same size. When I saw the positives that he got from the surgery, and the new life that he had, and the way he was able to, the way his body responded to the surgery, it wasn't until then that I really finally made the hardcore decision to have the surgery in the first place. So you never know who you're going to inspire by putting your story out there. And, the support you'll get back will be tenfold. I promise you that.
I agree completely. I don't think any one of us, I think it's impossible to make the decision to have weight loss surgery without being inspired by somebody else. Because there's that much shame, there's that much misinformation in the world still about weight loss surgery, that until we connect with somebody who's done it, until we can see ourselves in somebody else's story, we won't make that leap. So, and you and I've talked about this all the time, right? Again, we want to share our stories to inspire others who are maybe on the fence. We want to share our stories so that people can empathize, right? Because you grow community when you find connections with people, but we only do that by being vulnerable, and we only do that by sharing things about ourselves that maybe we don't necessarily want to share. But that's how personal growth happens, and that's how community growth happens, and that's how others are inspired, just like with what you said. So that's a really good segue into the other aspect of pre-op that you and I wanted to touch on today, and that is the emotional changes, or the emotional things that we are going to experience before weight loss surgery. We know that the emotional changes and experiences are great afterwards, but beforehand, you and I were talking earlier, I felt like I knew that I was preparing to break up, to go through this breakup with this relationship that it's the longest, the most brutal, abusive, yet wonderful relationship I've ever had. And that was my relationship with food. And I knew that after surgery, I was going to have to break up with food. I was going to go through a breakup. Like I'd been through breakups with people in my life. And oh my God, it's just brutal. I mean, we all know what a breakup feels like. It's gut wrenching. So it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because not only is it a breakup of the types of food you used to like to eat, but it's also the amount of food that you used to eat.
Yes.
Or that you're used to eating now. You get to a point where, and your mind will still tell you, because like I said, I'm 2.5 months post-op, and the other night I made the biggest bowl of taco salad I think I've ever seen. And it was hilarious because, that wasn't even, I don't even know what made me grab the bowl. Like I said, I just dumped it and put all the stuff in there and was like, no, I'm good. My wife's like, where are you going with that? I was like, I'm going to eat it. She's like, yeah, no, you're not. And so I laughed, and I ended up giving it, to her, and she made a bowl for my wife, for herself and for our son. And I made my little tiny bowl and went onto the couch and just did what I was going to do in the first place, which was eat half a quarter of a bowl
Yes.
of taco salad. Because I mean, there'll be times where you're on autopilot and your mind just takes over, and you slip into something old, and without even thinking about it. Like my intention was, of course, not to eat this giant bowl. I wasn't even thinking about it, and put it together like normal. It's one of those things where you'll become more conscious over time, but you will still slip every now and then and do something silly like that.
Well, that's a really good point, which I never even thought about. But I did get a lot of comfort in looking at a big plate of food It's just something comforting about it. I don't know if it was just the fact that like what it was going to provide, or it was like, oh God, I'm just so excited about this. You know, obviously my relationship with food was horrible, you know, but before weight loss surgery. So yeah. And that was a disappointment for me after, is that, you know, you're so used to comforting yourself, or you're so used to having this giant plate of food. And then after weight loss surgery, you know, you've got like, you know, I mean, it looks like some super fancy cuisine. You know, I'm going to pay $300 for 4 ounces of food. But
Yes.
yeah, but that's what it is. So, you know, you really do need to, you know, I think part of the emotional experience is that you are going to very quickly come face to face with the reality of your relationship with food. And nobody wants to admit it. Nobody wants to, you know, nobody wants to be called out on just how connected you are with food. But it is the truth. That's why we are in the position that we are in. That's why we go through weight loss surgeries, because we know that we need a tool to help us get right with this, you know, relationship with food. So if before surgery you are feeling anxious or sad or mad about this breakup that you know is coming, that's normal. And I don't know what you can do about it besides just being cognizant and aware that this is coming. And even thinking back on, you know, previous breakups that you've had with boyfriends or girlfriends, or, you know, or friends, or, you know, if you've been through this, you know, this disconnect before, I would maybe encourage you to think about what you did to get over that breakup. And then maybe even get yourself in that mindset again. How did you get over that breakup? And, you know, maybe just kind of prepare yourself to do it again in terms of food.
Well, and the thing about it, it's funny that you say that, because for myself, I know that you know, even I would venture to say, even after post-op, I was still in the denial of the fact that, well, I don't have a problem with food. I have, you know, my thyroid went out, and even though I'm taking medication for my thyroid still doesn't work quite like it should. So, you know, that's probably a lot of why I gained the weight that I gained in the first place. And I got a little medical issues, and, you know, there's things like that that are why, you
That's
know,
like,
instead of thinking the fact that, you know, my farewell to food tour post-op, you know, pre-op was, I went and crushed a 22-ounce porterhouse steak with, you know, with a giant side of mashed potatoes and all this
yeah.
other stuff. And of course you had to throw dessert in there too, but that definitely wasn't the problem. It was my thyroid and my medical problem. So
Boy, that ties into what we were actually talking about earlier with Wendy. That sounds like an incredible story you were telling yourself. Some
and
straight
I
up
believed,
news.
I believed every word of it. I believed every 100%. I since I'm such a medical professional, I talked myself right into believing that it was all my medical problems and not the fact that I ate like a freshly freed hostage every time I sat down at the table.
Oh man, there's a truth bomb right there. Man, we need to put that on a graphic. I'm fat because I ate like a freshly freed hostage. That's why. It's true. I mean, that is the true story right there, sir.
I mean,
Breaking
yeah,
news.
that's 100%, and that's every time I sat down. You know, I don't have anxiety, and I've never taken Xanax, but I know kind of the gist of it, and that's honestly kind of how when I think back on some of the stuff that I used to do and the stuff I used to eat,
Yeah.
that calming feeling that rushes over you when the plate's in front of you and you know it's go time. You know, you're just like that. That to me is how I know now how important that relationship with food really was to me, because just the knowing that you're starving, you know, because you don't just get, when you're big like us, you don't just get hungry, you're starving.
Yeah, you're
And
hangry.
yeah, exactly. And you know, that's the thing. And you're not going to be done until you feel like you've eaten a couch cushion and it's just sitting in your stomach and you know, you can barely move. And that's what that, you know, that's your done point. You're like, oh, now I'm full. Like, and now it's just not that way, and it's so much better for not only just your everyday life, but you can actually eat something and continue on with your day. You don't have to have a nap, and you don't have to rest, and you don't have to let your food process. And
Yeah.
it's
It's a true gift. And that is, I absolutely, dude, as soon as you said something, I was like, oh my God. Yeah. a flashback to pre-surgery, right? The anxiety would build in me, hungry I got, right? Something's wrong. It's, oh my God, I'm just, you just get so worked up because you are so hungry, you're angry, and you're anxious. And then the feeling of relief, it just like preparing the food and eating the food. And then that time afterwards. Yeah. I mean, it really is just like you zone out for an hour or two, you know, while you're eating. And then as you're processing this giant meal that you've just done. And it is, yeah. I mean, the flip side to that is now I have very little anxiety around food. I mean, almost none. And I don't get panicked when I see tiny amounts of food on the plate anymore. And I am so satisfied and I'm full and I don't worry. Like you said, like, yeah, I can go do whatever the hell I want to do after a meal because yeah, I haven't eaten a couch cushion. I've eaten the perfect amount of food. Yeah. Just, wow. Yeah. Spot on.
It's a very liberating feeling to not be so tied down to meals and snacks and all of the above. Like you kind of keep a running tally in your head about, you know, where you are, you know, nutrition wise as far as your nutrients you've taken in for the day.
Yeah. Protein.
You know, making sure you got enough protein, making sure you got enough water. Like I'm horrible at math, but this, if nothing else, has kind of helped keep a running. Like I can keep a running tally enough to know if I'm short. Yep. And you know, the only anxiety I think I've had since this has all happened is remembering one night that I don't think I was enough in my protein count, so I went and grabbed a little shake and little 11 ounces and took care of that real quick and got that in there. But I mean, that's, you know, that's kind of the thing. You learn, because to me, before surgery, I was the cook. I cooked slabs of ribs. I cooked pork. Like I was the smoker king. Like I would smoke just pounds and pounds and pounds of meat. I would do 2 pork butts at a time, which is about 22 to 25 pounds of pork. Shred it. We'd eat off of that for, you know, a week. We'd have ribs, but it wouldn't be just a slab of ribs. It would be 4 slabs of ribs, because you got to season them different. You got to have variety, and you got to have all that. You know, briskets the same way, chicken the same way. So I mean, instead of doing, you know, a couple of chicken thighs on the smoker, I would do an entire, you know, couple 2 or 3 Cornish game hens and have those, and just have, you know, just everything was excess. And now you learn to shift that love of cooking, or I have learned to shift that love of cooking into different meals that have a lot more color in them, because there's more vegetables, instead of just, you know, brown for meat, white for potatoes, and, you know, done deal. Maybe a little bit, a few green beans on the plate. But, you know, past that now, it's like the learning to cook something that's completely different or separate than what you've known to do. For me, I've kind of turned it into a little bit of a labor of love from just one aspect to another. And it's really helped me kind of get right with what I need to be doing.
What you said, we're going to talk about that a little bit further on in the show, but kind of the last meal mentality. We're going to dive into that, because what you said is very true. Before surgery, we think about food very differently. After surgery, we think about it, yeah, very, very differently. And I think it's important to know your joy of food will not go away. It's just going to shift. So you love food now for some reasons that are not so healthy. You're going to love food after surgery for different reasons, and you're going to love food because it's nutritious and the variety. So you're definitely going to shift. Before we move on to that, though, there were 2 other things I really want to make sure we hit on when we talked about emotional experiences before surgery. What I found, something that I did was a huge help, is that I knew I was already getting bombarded with questions when I started to tell people I was going to have weight loss surgery. And they always kind of started with like, oh, wow, that's, you know, big, or do you really need to do that? Or, you know, I mean, all of these questions about why I had made the decision to do what I do. And what really helped me is I came up with a canned response. So every time somebody came at me with question or statement, I had a response that I had written out and I had practiced. And I said that every single time somebody questioned my decision to have weight loss surgery. It was a huge help for me pre-op. And I recommend it to anybody who asks me like, well, you know, what are your tips? come up with your canned response. What is it that you are going to tell people when they ask you? And that canned response can be absolutely anything. But for me, it was more about, well, I need a tool to help me live at a lower weight. I've done all my research. This has a great success rate. It's less invasive, and I'm ready to make a change in my life. So it was a statement. It did not invite more questions. It was just, this is what I'm doing. We're done talking about it. And there were some people that wanted to continue the conversation, and that's totally fine. But at least by me having that canned response, I could set up the conversation how I wanted to set it up, because people are going to come at with you. And I think that's why a lot of people, to this day, I know probably 10 people who have told me they've had weight loss surgery, but nobody else in their world besides maybe their husband or their immediate family knows that they've done it. And it's just mind-boggling to me. But it's because they said, well, people came at me with, judgment and questions, and I just don't want that. And I was like, oh my God, that's like freaking bullshit, right? But for whatever the reason, I think having that canned response is a super powerful thing that you can do pre-surgery, to not only get people off your back, but I also think the more times that you say it, the more you will believe it, right? So even if you're still a little bit on the fence, and Jason, I told you this the other day, I was 100% committed to having surgery, but I was only 90% sure that it would work. And people in my life were like, oh, I would have never known that. Like, you were just committed. And then it's like, well, yeah, because, as I've talked about, I've got a couple identities that I like to, share publicly, and I've got different private ones. But, knowing that I was only 90% sure that it would work, every time I said my canned statement, it became more and more true. So that was my truth. That was my story. Nope, this is why I'm doing it. Here's the research that I've done. This is it. And it just really helped solidify my decisions, so that when I was in the hospital, laying on that table, about to get the mask, put on me to go under, even though I had a little bit of, gnawing thought in the back of my head, I could repeat that mantra. I could repeat that statement. Nope, this is why I'm doing it. This is the reason. I've done my research. I'm good to go. So that's my recommendation to help people emotionally prepare for surgery.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good one, because I, like myself, I didn't tell. I mean, there was a few people that knew ahead of time, but I didn't have anybody that detracted from mine. Everybody was real supportive of it. In my immediate circle, my dad actually was the only one that had questions about it, because he's older. So in his mind, he remembers 20 years ago bariatric surgery where it used to kill people. And, people would die. And it's not only whether or not it would work, it was whether or not you survived it.
Yeah.
And I got, I got his mindset of it. And, he kept reverting back to saying that, asking me if I was having that band put around my stomach. And I'm like, no, man, they don't even do that anymore. Like, calm down. It's kind of, explaining to him the whole foreign body in the, inside of you doesn't work, and it kicks it out. And we don't do that. So now we're going to do this. And I explained it to him, and he calmed down a little bit about it, but he was still nervous because, of course, it's his child, and going under anesthetic and get cut on is a big deal no matter what happens. And it's funny to me, because even still, I keep having to tell him, because even still to this day, he'll call and go, well, is everything going okay? How you feel? And I'm like, Dad, I'm good. Like, the worst part's over. Like, all the worrying, like, we're done with that. That was 2 months ago. Like, if I was going to have problems, I'd have had them by now. Like, I'm straight. Like, don't worry about it. And so, that part for me was the only person I had to explain anything to, but I held off to the greater, like my greater circle, I should say, like Facebook friends and things like that. I mentioned something about it right before I went in, just specifically to kind of give a heads up, because I had done weight loss stuff on Facebook in the past. And I'm kind of one of those people that has I've got a close group of people that I went to school with that I'm truly friends with. So I don't have a lot of Facebook people that I've never met before. Pretty much everybody that I'm friends with on Facebook, I have a connection with in one way or another. Mm-hmm. So I've done Facebook updates and on weight loss and stuff I've tried in the past, and had a real support behind it. So I felt it to myself. I felt that I needed to be honest with those people and say, hey, all the other things that we've tried, the trial and errors, we're going to bypass all that. Now we're going to do this. So you supported me for that. Now I just need a little uplift and thoughts and prayers, going forward before I go under the needle for this. And, my response was 100% positive on that, which was great. Fortunate for myself, because I know a lot of people don't get that. And so for me, I really didn't need the canned response or to tell people anything. I had one prepared because I thought that I would get a little pushback from it. Surprisingly, I didn't. But it's definitely something that you want to have, loaded and ready, because you may have some people that do it. The biggest, most important thing about it is remember your why. Just in your mind, keep your why at the forefront, no matter what people say. Don't listen to, I don't care if you run up against somebody that says, I know 9 people that had the surgery done and all 9 failed.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've told you time and time again, everyone else's story is not your story. So keep your why in the front of your mind, so that when those people say that, you can go, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Here's why I'm doing it. And thank you for your feedback, and just keep it moving, because no matter what happens, you can't let somebody else change your mind, because at the end of the day, you have to do the surgery for yourself to be successful.
Absolutely. Right. Preparing your friends and family for what you're about to go through, I think, is a critical step in preparing for weight loss surgery. And while we know there are going to be people in our lives who support our decisions, there could be people in our lives who will not support our decisions. And being prepared for both of those instances, it just gives you the power that you need to continue to move through the process of being approved, and then of going through weight loss surgery. Because I think the powerful thing about friends is that, right, they're people that we connect with, we have a lot of similarities with, but there's also this outsider mentality that can take over in our groups of friends, right? Like, everybody kind of wants to be, you're in a friend group because everybody's kind of the same. And then all of a sudden, when somebody busts out of that mold, or starts doing things a little bit differently, or starts, living different sets of values, or kind of, not only physically shape shifts, but then is also kind of doing the mental and emotional shifting, the group kind of has to, reshuffle a little bit, right? Because your dynamics have changed. And in this whole concept of becoming an outsider can really drive some divides between people, right? Because I think a lot of people struggle with weight, publicly or privately. And when all of a sudden you make public, hey, I'm doing something about it, this is what I'm doing, all of a sudden brings to everybody's public acknowledgement that, oh, we can do something about something that we're struggling with. And here's my friend, here's an example of that, who's actually doing something. And what that does is it makes everybody else check themselves, check the stories that they've been telling themselves, right? Because people in your friend group might have been saying, well, I can't ever lose weight, or I can't do that because X, Y, and Z, right? So that's the story that they have been running with their entire lives. Well, then here comes you, their close friend, that's going, oh, actually, I'm going to run a different narrative. I'm going to tell a different story. I'm taking a different path, and I'm going to make some changes. Well, now that means that they have to reflect on their own story, because maybe what they've been telling themselves is a lie, and they don't want to do it, right? They're comfortable where they're at, even though they're feeling bad about themselves. This is more comforting than trying something new, than taking a risk. And that can cause some issues in friends groups. So I think, being honest with your friends and letting your friends know, hey, look, this is why I'm doing it. I've, X, Y, and Z, and asking them for their support in specific ways can be really helpful, right? Because you just saying your friends like, well, I'd really like your support. Well, that can mean a lot of different things. And especially if you're asking people to support you because you're going through something that they're totally unfamiliar with, they might not know how to support you. So being very specific with your friends, and even with some of my friends, I even assigned them some tasks, right? I had I've got a lot of very close friends. And when I told this friend that I was having weight loss surgery, she was very much like, oh my gosh, well, now I'm like really worried about you. Like now I'm worried. Now I'm like worst case scenarioing this, or I'm thinking like, I'm worried about you dying, or I'm just, she got so worried. And so I literally tasked her with, okay, I need you to do this research for me. I need you to look into exactly what's going to happen. And I need you to tell me about stats and numbers and all this kind of stuff, because I knew that it was information that she needed to be okay with it. And it would give us a line of communication that we could then talk clinically about this, right? She and I are both very analytical. And it was like, no, okay, let's talk numbers. Let's talk evidence. Let's talk this and that. And it was such a great tool that she and I could both use to get on the same page about what I was doing. And it was a task for her to help support me, because now all of a sudden I could go okay, but what about that? I remember you researched that, tell me more about that. So it was a way for her to help. And you can do that with everybody. I mean, the tasks are endless, and the support that your friends and your family can give you are endless if you are specific with them.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And it does help to have somebody who's worrying about it do research into it, so that way, because people learn information a lot differently. You got your visual learners, your read write learners, and people that are auditory learners. So just telling them that everything's going to be okay because you saw this and this doesn't always help.
No.
So if they need to watch a YouTube video, they can. I mean, the research is everywhere that they can do, that they can pick up on it in whatever way makes them comfortable.
Yes.
And they may not like the pressure of doing it right in front of you or another friend group. They may want to do it on their own time. So that's just something that's going to put them at ease if they're doing that. Otherwise, like I said, it's really up to you, because your why is what you need to focus on whenever you talk to other people about what's going on. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that you can start thinking about now, and even generating a list, is that I think if you really think about the activities or the things that you do with your friends and family, a lot of them are food centered, or they're food centric, they're food focused. And right after surgery, that's not going to be enjoyable for you or for them, right? Because people are going to freak out at how little you're eating. They're going to think something's wrong. You might feel the pressure to eat, or you just might not feel like eating at all. And now, right, that connection is broken between you and your friends or your family. And what I did is I sat down before surgery and I generated a list of things that I wanted to do with my friends and family that did not involve food. And it was super powerful, because then I could also have conversations with my friends about hey, I mean, after surgery, clearly I'm not going to be eating as much, or it's going to look different. And I still am excited to go and do those food centered things with you. But I would like to also start doing things that don't involve food all the time, and are just not centered around food, right? So I love going to the ocean. So it was I'm super excited to take a beach trip with you guys and just fly kites and look for sea glass and do all this kind of stuff. Or, I love, getting out in nature and hiking. I would love to take a photography class, or I really want to learn, how to paint. So I just really generated this list of things that I was excited to do with my friends that were not solely focused on food, right? So yes, happy hours are never going away for me. Going out to a fancy restaurant, that is never going away. Those are things that I absolutely love. But having the conversation, thinking about things that I wanted to do that were not necessarily focused around food, was super helpful. Because I know that going to the beach is going to involve a picnic lunch, and it will probably involve stopping at an ice cream shop to get my favorite ice cream, which only exists in this one place, which is totally fine. But the focus of the event is not the food. The focus of what we're doing is doing something together, doing something physical, doing something active, learning something new. Making that list, focusing on that list, is going to give everybody in your world a sense of relief, right? Because now all of a sudden it's oh, okay, so really nothing is changing. Instead of the focus of gathering is, well, we're going to go to the beach, but really we're just doing it so we can go to this restaurant. No, we're going to the beach so we can, and we have to eat because we're humans, so we will eat at some point. But just making that shift was huge for me, and really really important for my friends.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Letting people know that, while there will be minor changes in, dietary things for yourself, it's not like everything's going to change. You can still have family dinners. You can still have family get-togethers, like you said, happy hour, things like that that go. Like friends, our friends and I, once everything opens back up, we normally do trivia at least once a week, and those are always at a restaurant or a bar. So, those types of things didn't ever change. Birthday parties, pool parties, all that stuff's still the same. It's just your bowl's going to look a little different than everybody else's. And if you're like me, they gave me crap about it because I'm a giant human that had this little tiny cup of food. And it's just funny looking. It's funny looking to me just like it is everybody else. So it's funny because they're used to seeing me with the biggest plate or the biggest bowl or whatever. And now I'm running around with this little tiny Tupperware bowl. And I mean, it is funny. But that's really the main thing, is just letting people know that while there will be changes, just don't set the biggest place for yourself. And if you have to start bringing your own cups and bowls and silverware and stuff to places, then don't be afraid of doing that, because whatever's going to help you succeed, you need all the tools at your disposal. So if you're going somewhere that doesn't have what you need, bring it, because you got to have it. And it's nobody else's tasked with helping you succeed other than you.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and that's a good segue into the next one I wanted to talk about, was we prepare our spaces for life after surgery, right? So we can do a lot of work in our homes now, pre to help us be successful post-op. So were there things that you did, Jason, around your house to help you prepare for surgery?
I moved a lot of the things that I know that I can't have into a different area, or just started getting the stuff that I know I can have. And I put it in I separated it out from everything else so that I'm not tempted when I go in the pantry to grab bread or to grab crackers or chips or whatever that may be. So my stuff's just moved to a different cabinet. I mean, I wasn't, since a lot of us live with other people, my change is my change. I'm not going to force them to do anything different than they normally do. For myself, I just knew that I don't want to look at the things that I can't have or that are bad for me. So I moved my own stuff into a different area for me.
And I just live with my husband and my 13-pound Flupherton, and I did the same thing too. I moved some stuff, and then I kind of quickly realized, okay, moving it, if I move it, I know where it's at. So I just ended up throwing everything away. I mean, I just, about the week before surgery, I just went through our kitchen and our pantry, and I threw away a ton of stuff because I knew I did not want to be tempted. And what I threw away wasn't food that we should have been eating anyways. It wasn't healthy. It wasn't nutritious. So it's not like I was, throwing away apples or whatever, but, just the stuff that I knew I couldn't have right after surgery. And, the other thing I did too, and I'd heard this advice from other people, and I'm glad I followed it, is a couple months before surgery, I really started to drink more protein shakes, and I would incorporate them in smoothies and stuff like that. And I had a bit of a stockpile, and I made an effort to get through all of my stock. And I did not buy a bunch of stuff for after surgery, because people told me, like, your tastes are going to change and you're going to be stuck with 30 bottles of something that now tastes disgusting to you. And I'm so glad I did that, because my taste absolutely did change after surgery. So I just bought a couple bottles of Gatorade. I bought a couple just individual, shakes, and I didn't have a stockpile, because I had a feeling it would change. And I was really glad that I had done that. So that would be my recommendation for people too. Don't buy the Costco pack when you're a week prior. Buy a couple of different flavors, and then try a bunch of different things, because I couldn't believe how instantly my taste changed. I mean, as soon as I got home, I drank something that I used to love, and I was like, oh my God, this is just the worst thing ever.
That's so funny that you say that, because my taste did not change at all.
Oh,
not even a little bit.
wow.
Everything I used to eat and drink, I could do it now, and it tastes amazing. It tastes fantastic. I still drink the same protein shakes I drank before surgery, and they do what they're supposed to do. The only thing that I will say is I have a heightened sense for sweet stuff. So if it's got real sugar in it, it's where it would not have been super sweet before. It's uber sweet now. Like, it's crazy. That part is the only change that I've had so far. Is
Yes.
the fact that the sensitivity has heightened quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely echo that. I used to really enjoy Premier Protein makes a clear protein beverage. You know, it's all water. Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely love, I mean, I would pound those things like none other before surgery. And after surgery, I had that, I think those were the one thing that I had too many of left. And I couldn't do it. They were so sweet to me. Yeah, absolutely couldn't do it. But yeah, the sweetness thing, holy moly, that is real, for sure real.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing that I did too is that so I get stressed out if there's a lot of clutter. If there's, you know, shit on counters and there's just stuff everywhere, my stress rises, my anxiety rises. I just can't calm myself. So my other recommendation to people would be clean your spaces that you're going to recover in. Like, maybe you don't have the energy or the capacity to clean your whole house. I absolutely get that. But you're probably going to be recovering in your bedroom. They're probably going to be recovering in your, you know, living space. I would do whatever you could do to get those spaces clean and organized and decluttered so that your brain is not worrying about that stuff as you're also trying to recover. Because really, during your recovery, you just need to chill. You need to chill out, don't do anything. And it's going to drive you crazy, because as you're sitting there in recovery, you're going to be thinking about all of these things that you could be doing or that you should be doing, but you physically cannot do them because you are recovering from major surgery. And almost none of us have been through this type of recovery before. So having your space clean, I think will help you not stress out about that. And then my other piece of recommendation is now gather books, magazines, download your podcasts, your shows on Netflix. Know that you've got time coming up that you are going to be forced to do nothing. The flip side to that is you now have the time to learn and listen and watch and read the things that you have maybe been wanting to do for a while. So create yourself, a space, put books and magazines that you want to read. If you like podcasts, right, download a bunch of them and get them organized and have them at the ready for your recovery. Gather all these things that you've wanted to do for a while, because you're going to have, a week, 2-3 weeks where you're going to be real low key because you can't do anything else. And it's a great time to learn and listen and watch and do those things that you've been waiting to do.
It definitely is. And I cannot stress enough, like, you're going to want to do things, but please do not until your surgeon tells you otherwise. Cause trust me, we've talked about this before. I'm 6'4", 400 pounds post-op. And I'm going to tell you, the hardest thing ever was to sit on the front porch and watch my wife and my son do yard work, cut limbs down, have to drag limbs to the curb. And I just had to sit there because I could not lift anything even close to 5 pounds or over. And I know all my neighbors probably think I'm the biggest bum there is because I just sat there and watched them do all this yard work. But you just have to let it happen because that's part of the process. Like, you can walk. That's what you can do. You can get up, you can walk, you can drink your water, you can do your things. That's your whole job. And it's going to be that way for at least the first 4 to 6 weeks. Recovery times are going to vary. I was back to work in 6 days, didn't have any issues. I was sleeping for myself. I know a lot of people say they slept in a recliner for the first 2 to 3 weeks. I slept in my bed, posted up on pillows the first 2 nights. After that, I slept on my back, on my side. I didn't have any problems. Couldn't sleep on my stomach, but I slept on my problem. You'll know, for me, my left side was a little more sore than others because that's where they took the excess stomach out. So I had a little deeper incision on that side. So when I rolled over in the middle of the night for the first week, I knew it woke me up. You could feel it. But I know that there's other people that don't sleep in their bed for the first 2-3 weeks. So it's going to depend. It's going to vary. Just take it so very easy, because your body's going to let you know if you've done too much or if you're trying to do something that you're not ready to do.
And I think the struggle, and it sounds like the struggle was for you too, is at first I felt really guilty about not being able to help or contribute. And it really kind of wore on me. But then I just had to check myself. I just been through major surgery. My stomach was removed from my body. So when you put it in those terms, yeah, you need to chill. You need to do nothing. You need to recover. And you recover by doing nothing. I know it sounds backwards, but you know, really when you're thinking about how you're going to prep for recovery, or when you're thinking about your recovery, you can do work now pre-op, right? And that is having the conversations with the people you live with. Hey, look, this is what my life is going to be like for the first 4 weeks. You know, I'm going to need you to step up in these areas, or I'm going to need your help in these areas, right? So to really kind of prepare people for what they need to do to help you recover. You know, knowing that you're going to be in a lot of pain, but you need to follow your doctor's orders to the letter. You need to stay on top of pain meds if they're given, or you need to stay on top of your anti-inflammatories. You need to pay special attention to your wounds. You need to not move and lift and twist and bend. Following all of those things to the letter is really going to help you prepare for, you know, for your recovery and to recover well. You know, the other thing that I did, and my surgeons and the nurses credited my really rapid recovery, like you, Jason, was that I walked 10,000 steps a day for the first 4 weeks after surgery. And I had not walked 10,000 steps consistently, you know, for years prior to surgery. But as soon as I was, you know, up and awake and conscious and feeling somewhat human again after surgery, I walked in the hospital. Every half an hour, I was getting up, I was walking, using the restroom, doing my water, doing all of those things. So knowing that walking, as simple as that might sound, is really going to help you prepare, or it's going to help you recover, means that you can actually start getting those steps in now. Because the more you know, not fit, but just the more able that you are before surgery, the better your recovery is going to be afterwards. So even if you're like a month out from having surgery and you're listening to this podcast, the number one thing that I could recommend that you do right now to help you have a better recovery is start walking now. Get in those steps, make it a part of your daily habit, make it a part of your daily routine, because walking after surgery was the biggest thing that I could do post-op for sure.
Right. No, that's true too. And I know for me, I had a lot of nervousness leading up to the surgery, maybe like the night before, or even if it winds up for you a couple of days before, you can always go through the house and like April said, clean up your area, kind of get everybody together and help kind of clean and get some things done pre-op that you're not going to be able to do post-op. So that kind of alleviates some of those worries. Things like that you can do kind of to help prepare and get ready. The walking is also a huge thing, because even if you're not able to walk near as far as you will be able to after surgery or during your liquid diet when you start shedding weight, if you're like me, like I had to do 2 weeks prior liquid diet, so I shed 40 pounds doing that. So just in those 40 pounds, it was enough for me to really get a lot better quality of movement going around without being so sore. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was just a repetition of doing it and learning that healthier habit and kind of getting into a flow, a groove of doing it. So your body kind of knows how to recognize, okay, it's been a while, I should probably get up and go walk. It won't be such a foreign situation to you if you kind of do a little bit of the work pre-op. Yep,
absolutely. You know, the other thing that I would recommend, I couldn't sleep. Well, I had a really difficult time sleeping. It definitely took me some time, and sleeping in a recliner, if I had access to one, probably would have been a better way for me to recover. But same thing, I slept on propped up pillows. The hospital also, on maybe it was like towards the middle of the night in my recovery, and I was having a lot of abdominal pain, because obviously that's where all your work was done. And the nurse asked me, she said, you know, would you like a belly binder? And I was like, I don't know what that is, and how would it help me? And it's just basically a big, you know, like a waist trainer almost, right? There was just this big compressive garment that you put over your abdomen. And she brought one in for me to try. Oh my God, was that a game changer for me? So I would absolutely recommend ask your surgeon or ask the hospital if one will be provided for you. And if it's not, you can actually buy them on Amazon. They're not too expensive, but it was just a huge help because it's so compressive. It just keeps everything tight in. And for me, I'm not a back sleeper, I'm a side sleeper. And it was very painful for me to go on the side. But what I noticed is that if I slept in a belly binder the first couple of weeks after surgery, I just got quality sleep. It was a big help. It just supports your abdomen muscles as you're, just even like sitting up from bed and like using the restroom. You don't realize how many muscles you use just in those actions. So to have that belly binder on when I was sleeping and all throughout my day was a really huge help. So I would ask your surgeon, ask your doctor, and then, look into what your options are. But that would be something that I would recommend.
Yeah, I definitely recommend that as well. I came out of surgery with one on and made sure I kept mine on for the first, probably, I want to say at least the first 3 weeks, until it got to a point where they had fastened it. It started to slip and slide around and move around because I was losing the inches and stuff. And then after I took it off, I remember now, I took it off and walked. I walked around the block to see kind of how it felt. And the first time I did it without the binder on, it felt weird because there was movement that there hadn't been movement in a while. And so it was kind of strange, but it didn't hurt. It was just a weird sensation. And so at that point I knew I could take it off and I didn't really need it anymore. But yeah, I agree 100%. That's something you definitely want to ask about because it does make a huge difference.
Yep, absolutely. A really great thing to pick up to aid in your recovery. Now you can buy that pre-surgery and have it ready to go with you. You can even take it with you to the hospital, and then that's what they'll put on you the first time. So
definitely.
The other two things that I would really recommend in prepping for your recovery, so the work that you do now pre-op to help you, recover after surgery, is make gratitude a part of your day. I think when we're in emotional and physical pain, we often go to why me? But if gratitude is part of your practice, all of a sudden you don't have any more space for the why me, right? I'm thankful for this opportunity, or I'm thankful for the medical doctors, or I'm thankful for my ability to add this tool, right? Whatever you need, whatever you are thankful for, weight loss surgery related or not, I think adding gratitude now in your day will help make your recovery easier, right? You're going to be focusing more on what you do have. You're going to be focusing on what you're thankful for, and not focusing on maybe what's not feeling good or what's not going right. So my recommendation is make gratitude a part of your day. And then the other thing that I would recommend is that before surgery, just knowing that you're using food now in some way to comfort you, right? You're using food other than just for nutrition. Knowing that you are going to try to use something else after surgery is powerful, right? So after surgery, when you are feeling sad or angry or upset, or you fill in the blank, you're going to go to something else so that you don't have to feel those feelings. Just starting to think about that, knowing that you are going to try to transfer, right, that addiction, or you're going to try to transfer that feeling of numbing out to something else, is going to be powerful, because everybody's going to do it. And recognizing that that's something that you're going to do, and then kind of starting to think now about, okay, what's going to be my game plan when I notice that I'm doing that is huge. And maybe just the place to start is I have to get good with recognizing when I'm using food for something other than nutrition. So getting your brain geared towards noticing those things is going to help you notice when you are trying to do that after surgery, because you're going to be in a lot of pain. You're going to be mad, upset. You're going to be going through, your hormones are all over the place, right? After surgery, it's just a whole new landscape. But to know that you're going to try to avoid those feelings of hurt and pain and anger by doing something else is key, because you don't want to do that. After surgery, you just want to sit with those emotions. You want to deal with them. And you need to learn that dealing with those emotions is not going to kill you, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Whereas before surgery, you maybe have doubts about that. So, that's kind of my recommendation for the work that you can do now before surgery.
Well, and another way to look at that too is you can also take the connection that you had with food, and you can also kind of make that same connection with your recovery, with your, the positive steps, and you can take all that determination that you had to get the food that wasn't good for you, and take that and put that determination towards walking, or getting your water in, or getting your protein in. There's positive ways to transfer if now that you know ahead of time that it's actually coming, you kind of know how to game, like April said, kind of game plan it a little better. So you could look at it and say, well, if that does come up, I'm just going to take that same addiction to food and I'm going to make it an addiction to fluids or protein or walking or exercise or whatever it may be. We've all got something that we've always wanted to do, but our weights held us back from. Make it into that, make it into something positive, whether it be hiking or, fishing or whatever it may be. You may have something out there that you really wanted to do, but you've never been able to. Well, with this new tool, you'll be able to, because you're going to have more mobility. You're going to have a lot of things. The inflammation and stuff's going to go down because you're not going to be ingesting the same types and amounts of foods that you were. Things are going to get better. So for you going forward, you're going to be able to do, a lot of things that you weren't able to do before. So you can always just, the ways to look at it and say it's either transference or you're just swapping one addiction for another. But you can also use more positive terms such as repurpose. You can always take take your addiction for food, you can repurpose that into an addiction for being healthy. You may not have been a gym person before, but, you're going to have the energy to go now because, when you have the surgery, you get everything situated, you're going to have more energy than you've had in probably 10 years. So, you use those things for positive, use those powers for good and not evil, and you're going to win out in the end.
Yep, absolutely. And I think as long as you're recognizing when you're feeling emotional, or you face whatever is causing those emotions head on, then you absolutely can use that to power the positive things in your life. So when you're feeling sad, you can acknowledge that you're sad, you can figure out why, and then instead of eating, you can go for a walk, or you can go for a kayak, or you can go fishing. You absolutely turn that on its head and turn it in, and use the positive things that are coming out of these changes to better your life. Absolutely. All right. So the very last thing we wanted to talk about is your quote unquote last meal. And if you don't mind, Jason, so if you guys have been listening to us for a while, at the end of our podcast, Jason and I we ask each other a surprise question, just something that we absolutely don't know that's coming, so that we can be candid in our responses. So my surprise question is related to this last meal's portion. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you now. But my surprise question for you is, did you have a last meal? And do you regret it, having that last meal?
I did have a last meal, and I absolutely do not, even to this day, regret it. I had a fantastically cooked medium 22-ounce porterhouse with double mashed potatoes and chocolate lava cake when it was all said and done. I do not regret it because it was amazing. Every bite of it was fantastic. And it just, as I like to call it, my farewell to food tour. It was the weekend before my surgery, and I ate all weekend long. I ate every place that I wanted to eat that I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat after the fact. So I went and had the best pizza in town that I knew. I went and had the best steak. Like I had it all. I had a big bowl of chicken Alfredo, which is my favorite, or used to be my favorite, I should say. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I definitely did, and I rode that until the wheels fell off. All weekend long, right up until the time I couldn't eat anymore.
I love it. So the reason that I ask you that is because, I too had a last meal, but I couldn't tell you what I actually ate. And the further I get out from surgery, I feel this is this is my personal thoughts, but the whole concept of a last meal is just total bullshit. It's lies, because whatever I ate as my last meal, I know that I'm eating now. So I think maybe my last meal might have been, it might have either been tacos or maybe Red Robin. I love Red Robin mozzarella sticks. Maybe that was the last meal. My last meal was Red Robin. But since I've had surgery, I have been back to Red Robin. I have eaten a half of a mozzarella stick, right? So I mean, it's like all of these foods that I thought I would never be able to eat again, I have been able to eat. Now, after surgery, there might be foods that you can't tolerate. And maybe one of those foods is what used to be, your favorite. But I think I worked up in my brain. I got so worked up over the fact of like, oh my God, like this is my last meal and I'm never going to be able to enjoy this again. And, just like, woe is me, sad, 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 sad. And now that I'm 10 months out, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I can enjoy all of the foods that I used to enjoy before. What the hell was I freaking out about? Now, correct, I can't go eat 4 Red Robin mozzarella sticks and then have their Whiskey River barbecue chicken wrap. No, I cannot eat that quantity of food. But if I got a bee in my bonnet and I absolutely wanted some Red Robin mozzarella sticks, I could drag my ass to Red Robin, pick it up to go, and eat a 1/4 of a mozzarella stick and a couple bites of the wrap. I can still do that. So, this concept of this, last meal and all the stuff that goes with it, while I think in the moment, maybe it's important, sometimes I think it's a little bit dangerous though, because we trick ourselves into thinking that I'm never going to have that again. And I'm sure, have you had a porterhouse steak since surgery? Have you had steak since surgery?
I have had steak since surgery, just very small portions now. It's 4 ounces instead of 22, and there's no mashed potatoes. I can do, let's see, I think the last time I did it, I had 4 ounces of steak and 3 green beans, and that was my entire meal.
Okay. But was that steak as delicious now as it was before?
It definitely was. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing that I have not been able to eat since the surgery that I did have on my weekend of Eatapalooza was we have a grocery store, which for our listeners on the East Coast, you'll know, we have a grocery store called Publix, and they just absolutely love you there. Everything is made with love. Everybody there is like family, and they make the best fried chicken that there is known to man. And I used to eat. I would get a family box, which had about 30 wings in it, and I would almost just cash out the whole box every time by myself. And I have not had that since surgery because it's just super fried and I just can't. So I'm not even opening that window because that's all bad. Nothing good comes from that. So I air fry wings now and have a wing, and it's the best thing ever. But yeah, as far as that goes, the thing that and sandwiches that I've just completely cut out. There's no, because fat, pillowy artisan white bread to me is just the best thing ever. And I just can't, I can't, because I know I can't just have a normal sandwich because I'm just going to be, I bet I'd get a bite in and just be done. So it's not even worth it to me.
Nope. And I think, and I guess really that's the point that's the point that I want to make, is that after surgery, no food is necessarily off limits. What you are going to find is that there are some foods that don't agree with you any longer and will make you physically sick. So clearly you won't eat those because you don't want to be sick. And then there are some foods that are our magic gateway drug. Like, I swear to God, dare's a bunch of bullshit, because it's not drugs, it's food. Food is the gateway to like an and not happy life. To be like dare to keep kids away from potato chips, but right. So there are some foods that we know we can't enjoy anymore because they are a gateway to regain. But in terms of like last meal and like woe is me over food and oh my gosh, this is so sad, I just think it's bullshit. I think if you want to have a last meal, absolutely go for it, but do not obsess over it, because that is not the last time that you're going to be able to enjoy those foods, more than likely. And that, you know, your last meal is just a story that you're telling yourself. I think, Jason, you could probably recognize now your foodapalooza, right? The victory lap that you took with food. It was just a story that you were telling yourself. And that story is not, it's not true. It's not accurate. And that's okay.
You're right. You're 100% right.
Yeah. Well, of course I'm right. I mean, duh. All right. Oh my gosh. I think we covered so much today. So I'm just going to go through the list really quickly. So we talked about how to prepare for like the medical, the insurance requirements. We talked about the emotional things that we can prepare for. We've talked about how the importance of pictures and measurements before surgery and getting those numbers. We talked about how we can prepare our family and friends for our surgery. We've talked about how to prep our spaces. We've talked about the last meal. We've talked about how we can prepare before surgery for our recovery after surgery. There was a lot there. There was a lot there. Do you think, is there anything that we missed? Is there anything you want to make sure that people know or aware about or are thinking about?
I think we covered, I mean, as far as our experiences go, I think we covered pretty much everything that we could bring to the table. If there's, you know, anybody listening or watching that feels like we didn't cover something or that you have another question about, because a lot of times that's what'll happen is the things that we do say or discuss will bring up other questions, and we've got no problem answering those. So if that's the case, please message April or myself, or just message to West Page, and we'll be more than happy discuss those, chat with you about it. And if we need to set up a Zoom meeting and all get together and conference about it, we can do that too. Just let us know, because at the end of the day, like we always say, that's what we're here for, is to help support. Our information may not be exactly the same as what you're going through. And if you have a question that we can't answer, I promise you we'll get the answer to it regardless. Because like we always like to say, we're not experts, but we've got a couple, in our wheelhouse. So we'll make sure and reach out to the proper brain trust if need be.
Yep, absolutely. And I think too, it's important. There's a lot of different resources out there for how you can best prepare for surgery. I think it's super important that you read and listen and utilize as many of those as you possibly can, and then make yourself a checklist. So just like the checklist that you got for your medical and insurance requirements, make yourself a personal checklist for how you're going to prepare for surgery, and then things that you're going to need after surgery. That would probably be a really big help for you. And then just keep work down that checklist and until you get to the end. And hopefully by the time that you're at the end, you'll be at your surgery date and you'll be ready to go and super prepared for life after bariatric surgery. So, all right, Jason, do you have a surprise question for me that you'd like to ask?
Actually, I mulled over like 3 surprise questions, and you answered every single one of them when we were talking with our stuff.
There you go. Perfect.
So you talked yourself out of a surprise question.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We did enough talking for, I think, surprise questions for years at this point. So mission accomplished. So as Jason said before, we are here to support the community. We are not experts, but we know some experts, and we're happy to seek out those answers. And really, we just want to provide support in the areas that we feel are missing from this community. So in order for us to do that, though, we need your feedback. So if you have any suggestions, ideas, topics, things that you want to explore more in depth, please let us know. We already invited our first guest on the podcast, and it's actually, I think that episode is light, episode 5, where we really dive into like, okay, how do I start this dialogue with myself on identity? So we would love to invite you on the podcast to have these conversations with us. We exist because of the community, and we are a part of the community. So our goal is not to be exclusive. Our goal is to be inclusive. So please offer us your feedback. Let us know what you're thinking so that we can create that content and share it with the community. And then, of course, the best way to do that is just to like, share, offer your reviews, and offer us your feedback about this format or just about everything that you're seeing, because we only want to provide things that are of value to this community. And we don't know if something is valuable or not valuable if you don't offer us that feedback. So you're not going to hurt our feelings. You're not going to make us mad, sad, or upset. We absolutely want that feedback. So there's multiple ways that you can get a hold of us. Our group page is East to West Weight Loss Surgery on Instagram. You can message us there. Jason and I are always checking, always responding. And when we do respond, we try hard to say like, oh, this is April, or oh, this is Jason, just so you know who you're talking to. But we're both equally involved with that page. And then of course you can message us independently as well. I'm actively April on Instagram. Jason is the Smithsonian, THA_Smithsonian. You can message him directly. We're happy to talk about you with anything there. So if you just have a private question you want to ask us, you can message us. We're real people. We will respond and we will have conversations with you. Becca, refreshing, I think is it refreshing Becca?
Refreshing, yeah.
Refreshing Becca. She reached out to both of us with questions and we've just been going back and forth constantly. In fact, we're so close with her now. She refers to us as her VSG mom and dad. So
that's still hilarious to me.
We love it. When she first told me that, I was like, bitch, I could not be your mother. And then Jason, you were like, hey friend, you're 39. Yeah, she could absolutely be your daughter. And I was like, oh, hell no. And now
100%.
It's 100%. Yeah. Now it's a sign of honor that I get to be her VSG mom. So I'm very happy about that. So definitely do that. Follow us, like us on Instagram, on YouTube, on the podcast, give those reviews. Yeah,
please, the reviews are extremely important because it's going to help us to get the word out to others and to continue to share. So please, if you listen and you like what you hear, leave a review. Like April said, if there's anything we could be better, worse, indifferent, let us know, because we're not professionals at this. We just saw a gap that needed to be filled in the community and we jumped on it. So any help you can provide, we would be more than happy to listen to.
Absolutely. All right, friend, I think we did it.
I think so.
At the end of these conversations, I'm always just amazed at how much we have to share and talk about. So super happy with this. I hope you found this if you're listening, watching, I hope you found it valuable and useful. And if you know somebody who's about to have surgery, please recommend this as a resource to them. And like what we've always said, if there's more that needs to be added, please let us know so we can do so. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, I think we'll wrap it up for today, but thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Yes, always. Thank you.
Yep. All right, you guys have a great week and we'll see you on the flip side.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.